about a 30-minute Pilates class, because I know quite often you don't really have time to do a full hour to get your mat and I know what it's like, so maybe I'll get interrupted myself between one of the dogs might get bored listening to me, so we'll see how it goes. So starting as we usually do and standing, and we want to have our feet about hip width apart. Just check that your weight is nice and even through the four corners of your feet. Knees are soft, pelvis is in neutral, so give it a little tilt forward and back. Coming up, rib cage, shoulders, having them stacked over your pelvis and a nice tall spine. So we can open our shoulders, bringing our ribs back, close our shoulders in, and do that a couple of times just to get that upper body back into line and nicely stacked over our feet. Lengthening through the back of your neck up towards the ceiling. Let's bring our shoulders up towards our ears and then let them slide down. So inhale as we draw them up, exhale, let them melt away, and again. Once more, break the shoulders up, let's rotate out so we're opening across the front of our chest and then sliding our shoulder blades down the back of our ribs. Arms are just nice and relaxed. Coming back to our pelvis, let's do a little bit of sideways and lateral movement here. So we can bend one knee, so watch for this little tip out to the side. Keep your weight between your feet, bending one knee and letting that hip drop down. And then let's reach up on that same side, so we're opening the side of our body. And then coming back to the centre. Other way, letting that hip drop down and reaching up from the rib cage. And then let's do that a couple of times either side. So we've got that idea of the hip tilting one direction and then the other. Okay, we're going to get a little bit of rotation into our body, so we can take our hands onto our shoulders and just allow our hips to rotate around, going in one direction and then the other, a couple of times. So we're just getting that nice little bit of hip to opposite shoulder, extension, and then coming back. Let's nod our head down, bringing our chin towards our collarbone, stretching to the back of our neck, lengthening, and then coming back up level. Allow one ear to drop towards the shoulder, bring it back up and over to the other side. So we're just starting with some nice small movements, seeing how our body feels. Let's give one shoulder a little roll. Arms just nice and loose and heavy. And then we're going to the other side. Okay. So from here, inhale, float both arms up to about shoulder height. Exhale, bring them down by your sides. So we're thinking about nice and light on the way up and a little bit of engagement as we bring them back in. Think about lengthening through your spine, so it's as if you're drawing the arms down like the levers on a corkscrew. And also feel we can get a little bit of engagement through your back here. One more. Always worth noticing if one side feels a bit more engaged than the other. Okay, give yourself a little wiggle out there. If it feels tight anywhere, we want to make sure we're not holding on to that tension. Okay, coming on to one foot, let's see how our balance is today. So use a wall or a bit of furniture if you need a bit of support, and just seeing how you feel standing on one foot. If you want to, you can close your eyes, see if you can maintain that, and then come back to 2 feet, and then the other side. So again, onto one foot And then if you want to, you could add eyes closed, and then come back to 2 feet. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of movement into our hip joints. So we're standing on one leg, bringing the other leg up, and then reaching that foot behind. So nice and gentle hip flexion and extension. Upper body stays nice and tall. Okay, one more. Then we're going to do the other side. So apologies if I'm cutting my head off here, but trying to get the camera angles. Oh, got an awful lot of space. So again, we're bringing knee up and then opening the hip by sending the toe behind. I'm not doing anything too dramatic just now because we're just warming up. And coming back to 2 feet. So we're going to do a little bit of a squat. So feet could be hip or shoulder width apart. And you don't have to go down too deep with this. So as if you're going to sit down in a seat, taking your bottom down behind you. Try to keep a nice tall spine here so we're not coming too far forward with our bodies. And then pressing back up. So some people might be able to go down sort of parallel in the thighs. For others, and myself, will have a smaller range of motion. So we're just waking up the hip joints, pressing through the heels, squeezing the glutes as we come back up. And one more. Okay, so a little bit more single leg strength here. We're going to take 1 foot behind, soften that front knee, hands could be on your hips, and you're going to come forward. So all your weight's through your front leg, and you want to feel a wee bit of engagement here into the glutes. And if you wanted to, you could float that back foot off the floor. You can bring it back down. You could keep the toe in contact. Do another little float, keeping the weight through the front foot the whole time. One more. And then coming back up. I'm going to do the other side. So foot goes behind, front knee soft, hips are squared so we're not letting ourselves twist here. Coming forward, lengthen through your back, getting that engagement of the glutes. You can stay here with the toe on the floor, but keep the weight in the front foot, or you can take it into a little balance. So one more, and then coming back to upright. Woo. Okay, let's come into our forward folds. So we can bend the knees, hinge at the hips, and we could come to halfway with a nice level back to the floor, and level the chest to the floor, whichever way you want to visualise it. Keeping your head a bit level with your chest so you're not coming too far down, and that's fine. Once you're down here, you could have the lower back a little tuck under, so it's the lower back we're trying to lengthen and then untuck. Or you could come down, draping your chest down towards your legs, and let your head be nice and heavy. You can bend the knees, we can walk ourselves back to upright. And again, one of my favourite moves, just to start to move the whole body. Breathing into that. We're not trying to stretch, remember, it's about lengthening and releasing. And coming back upright. One more. So nice and long. Hands maybe on your shins, maybe on the floor. Wherever they come to is absolutely fine. And coming back up. Okay, so let's come down onto our mats. So taking yourself down onto a seated position, nice and safely onto the floor, and we start with a partial roll back. So we have our legs out in front, knees are bent, hands out in front or hands underneath your thighs. Tilt your pelvis back here. Send your lower back down towards the mat. Keep the chin lightly down. Exhale, bring yourself back to seated. And again, tilt your pelvis back. Send your lower back down towards the floor. Take a breath in, exhale. And bring yourself back up nice and tall. And again, so focus on using the abdominal muscles here. So the neck and the shoulders stay nice and relaxed. And then we exhale, bring ourselves back up. Okay, we can take it to a full roll down if you wish, or stay just going part way. Coming down, we want to be nice and controlled, and nice and smooth. Come back up and stacking our spine. So coming back up, try to make sure that you come onto your sit bones and you have that length through your spine. And again. So if you're a bit concerned about your spine, your bone health, don't come all the way down, stay in a partial roll back, or get yourself a little bit of support. So you could use a resistance band if you had one, or maybe like a dressing gown belt or something around your feet to give you something to hold on to, and making sure that you don't put any strain into your neck. And exhale as we come back up, last one. And then we're just going to give it a little fold forward, making sure that our back feels nice and loose. Okay, coming down onto the mat, so taking ourselves down onto our back. And you can have something underneath your head if you wish here. Check that you're not tilted back in your head so your neck is in a nice neutral place and you're looking up towards the ceiling. Think about your breathing. So breathing into the sides, the back of your rib cage. Exhale as the ribs come back together. Breathing in, soft, full breath. Exhale. Ribs come back together, hips come together, or sorry, hip bones, they imagine them coming together, they're not moving. So we're getting that engagement on our exhale, that lacing up of our corset muscles. We're going to add some movement and do our knee folds. So on your exhale, allow one knee to fold out to the side. Other leg staying still. Hips are staying anchored down. Inhale, lace up your corset muscles and bring that knee back to where it started. And we're going to go to the other side. So we don't need to go too far. I'm going to bump into the chest here, but that's alright. Exhale as you bring that knee back to the start point. And again, exhale, allowing the knee to go out to one side. Pause and inhale. Exhale, lacing up the corset muscles, bringing yourself back to the centre. So we watch that we don't let the hips roll here. So think of keeping the opposite hip from the leg that's moving glued down to the floor as we move the leg. So legs going out to the side. We're lacing up our corset muscles as we bring it in, and then we're letting it go to the other side. And then bringing it back in. Okay, so we can bring one foot off the floor, bringing that knee up to above your hip. So watch here that we don't tilt back and bring it too far. We want to keep the knee over the hip. And this foot here can be nice and relaxed. It doesn't need to be way up in the air. We want to sort of not focus on our leg muscles, more about our core muscles. And then we'll just lower that foot back down. So again, we're seeing how things feel in our hips and our back. Bringing that other leg up. And then lowering it down. If you feel okay, we can come one foot into the air, lace up the corset muscles, bring the other leg up. If that feels too much, come back to single leg and do one leg at a time. From here, we can do toe taps. So we touch one toe down, keeping the core engaged, bring that toe back up. Other side. Nice and controlled, going with your breath. So exhale, and that should take that exhale for the foot to go down. So we're not dropping it to the floor, we're lowering it with control. And other side. Watch for any change in your pelvis, so if it starts to arch or you have to give yourself a little curl, then maybe take it back a little notch. Okay. One more either side, and then we'll have a little rest here. So you can hug your knees in towards your chest. You can give yourself a little rock from side to side. We have one leg in and give the other leg a little stretch out. So alternate, go with your breath. And if that feels a bit challenging, take the leg a little bit higher rather than extending it out further. And then bring one foot back down and then the other. Let's just inhale, float our arms up towards the ceiling, and exhale, take them up over our heads. So what to watch for here is this little lift into the rib cage. You want to keep the back of the ribs down. Exhale, bringing the hands back through. And again, exhale. Pause and inhale. Exhale, bringing them back over. We'll do one more like this. So we're just seeing how our shoulders feel, keeping our rib cage nice and stable, and then bringing it back down. So watch for these ribs here flaring up when we do that. We're going to do a little bit more for our shoulders. So opening, or so taking them back up to the ceiling, then opening out. And then you could let your arms fold towards the floor here. So if your hands don't go to the floor, if they're up here, that's okay, don't force it. If you have to kind of arch your back to get there, then just let them go where they go. If you can, let them come down to the floor. Take a little breath here, and then reach up. And then bring them round in a circle, back by your sides. So we'll do that again. So up towards the ceiling, check that your back of your shoulders are still in contact with the floor. Open them out, and then folding the hands up. Exhale as we reach overhead, and then big circle. Bring the hands back round by your sides. Okay, so taking the knees and the feet together, we're going to tilt the pelvis back, and then allow both knees to fold over to one side. Breathe into this, and then draw your lower back down, bringing it back through to the centre, and then we can go over to the other side. So I'll shuffle myself over a little bit here. So watch for this opposite shoulder. If it wants to come up, then you're not going to go so far. You're going to keep it down on the mat. Imagine sending the back of your ribs down to the mat here to get a wee bit more depth into that stretch, bringing the knees back through to the middle. Okay, so we're going to take your feet a bit hip width apart, maybe a little bit closer towards your bottom. So I can just about touch my heels with my fingers here, but I've got quite long arms, so that might not be comfortable for everybody. But what you want to do is press your feet down into the mat. Think about lacing up your corset muscles, tilt your pelvis back, and then release. So remember, when we tilt back, our lower back is flattened down into the mat. And then we release and come back to that neutral place. So behind your back here, that's a natural curve, not pressing down. So when we tilt back, that's when your lower back will come into contact with the mat and then come back up. Okay, if you want to, we're going to take it up into a bridge. You can stay doing these nice low pelvic tilts, and that can feel really quite nice if you have a tight lower back. So squeeze in your glutes, press your hips up towards the ceiling. So arms should be nice and relaxed on the floor. You can have palms facing the ceiling if you wish. Watch for the rib cage flaring up here. We want to keep it down, and we're pressing up through our hips. Little squeeze, keeping everything in place, keeping the hips level, breathing. So I'm talking, so I'm definitely breathing. And then exhale, laying one vertebra down on the mat at a time. Nice and controlled, working our way through our spine, all the way down to our tailbone. Coming back into neutral, and then tilting the pelvis back, pushing up, squeezing, lifting the bottom off the floor. So making sure I'm still on my shoulders, my shoulder blades are still in contact, I'm not pressing into my neck at all. And we can just hold it here for a breath, and then lower back down, one vertebra at a time. And you could do a few more of these, keep both feet on the floor. If you want to, you could lift one foot up into the air, and we're going to do that again, but with one foot this time. We still try to keep the hips level, and then nice and controlled as we lower back down. Let's do the other side. So again, we extend that leg up into the air, lift up through the hips, and then lower back down. Nice and controlled. Bring that foot down to the floor. Okay, we can add a little bit of the arms into this if you wish. So this time we'll keep both feet on the floor. We'll have the hands on the thighs, pressing up into your bridge. Float the hands up towards the ceiling, and then as you exhale, lowering the spine down, let's take the hands up overhead. So we get a nice length through the body here. Sweeping the hands back round, come back to the start position. We'll do a couple more of these. So there's different versions here of the bridge. And you might feel you want to do something different. You might want to stick doing the single leg version, or not have the hands involved, just do the bridge as you were, or keeping it low and doing your pelvic tilts. All is good. Just listen to your body and exhale, lowering the spine down, one vertebra at a time as the hands float up overhead and bringing the hands round. Okay, so I'm going to come round onto my front. So just taking yourself round to lie full length on the mat. You want to have the front of my hip bones down on the floor. I'm going to put my hands underneath my forehead. So I'm going to turn so that you can hear me speaking. I'm not talking into the floor, but you want to keep your neck nice and long and look down towards the mat. Just making sure you've got a little breathing space there. So we're going to start with exhale, lift one leg, reaching through those toes, and then lower down. Other side, reaching nice and long, and then lower down. So exhale as we lift, inhale as you lower, keeping both hips down on the floor. Draw the belly button lightly towards the spine here, so keep a little bit of engagement in your back. Going with your breath. Okay, we bring one foot in towards your bottom. You can do a couple of little pulses here, and then lengthen that leg away. Other side, bring the foot in, and pulse, and away. We're using our hamstring muscles here. We're bringing the heel in as close as you can towards your bottom, and then extending it away. Okay, if you can, we're going to reach down, take a hold of that foot. You can take hold of your trousers instead, and guide your heel in towards your bottom. Press down through the front of your hip, so you're looking for a nice stretch at the front of the thigh, front of the hip. Keep the knees close together as well, so motion that the body can sometimes find an easier option. I'm going to go to the other side. Nice and long. So if this stretch does feel too much for you, again, just come in as far as you can and just think about length and pressing through the front of that hip. And then when we let the legs come down. We bring our hands to either side of our head. Inhale, little float up, and then lower down. Lengthening through our back, drawing the belly button in towards the spine. So we're really focusing on working our back muscles here. So we want to try and keep our bottom nice and relaxed, our legs nice and relaxed. We're going to take our hands down by our sides, turn our palms in, reach down to our fingertips, so we're drawing our shoulders towards our spine. And then widen, let the shoulders soften down into the mat. And again. Going with your breath. Exhale, reaching down. Inhale, letting the shoulders soften and widen. So really we're thinking about this kind of area here in your back. Exhale, turn the palms in, and down. And release. We're going to do one more. Okay. Bringing our hands up to either side of our head. And we do a spinal extension here. So lifting your head, your chest. You can keep your forearms down on the floor. You could maybe bring your elbows in a little bit closer if you want. And just stay here. This is a really nice back extension, a back bend without putting any pressure or load. And if that's too high for you and you lower down, then stay lower down. And then lower your head back down. If you wanted to, you could press into your hands, lifting a little bit higher. Keep the neck nice and relaxed. And then lower back down. And one more. And release. I'm going to press my hands onto the shoulders, pushing back onto my knees. So, I want to give the back a little chance to lengthen out here, so I'm going to just bring my forehead towards the mat, lengthening through my back. If you want to take your bottom down onto your heels, you can. If that doesn't feel comfortable anywhere, so it might be in your knees or your hips, you could keep the bottom up in the air and just come forward. You could bring your hands down if that felt better and support yourself. So you just want to lengthen out through your back. Coming on to hands and knees. So we want to be nice and even through our hands and knees. Hands a little bit wide on the shoulder width, knees underneath our hips, and drawing our belly button lightly towards our spine. So we try and keep ourselves from swaying from side to side, and also not lifting and twisting in our hips. So we can take opposite hand and foot out, and then bring it back in. Move forward a little bit here so we've got a bit more room. So keeping everything else nice and steady. Keeping the shoulders and the hips in line with each other and trying to keep the hips level. So it's quite easy to shift over doing this. You want to try and focus on engaging through your core to keep that stability. If you wanted to, you could lift. Yeah, I'm going to kick the door here, so try the other side. Lift the hand and knee. We want to, again, watch for the hips here. So if that back is twisted, if you're dipping down here, engage through your core. Keep the neck nice and long, looking down to the mat, and that will help to get your stability. Okay. We're going to do one more either side. And we're going to finish with a little bit of spinal articulation here. So nice soft hips, and we can let our belly be nice and soft here. We're not trying to draw it in anymore. And then tuck your tailbone under and give your back a nice arch, cat stretch, head's heavy, looking down towards your knees, lifting your spine. So you're lifting your tailbone, allowing your spine just to soften and letting your head float up. And we'll do that again. So going with your breath, exhale and inhale. Okay, so that's us moved our spine that way. We're just going to finish with a little bit of rotation. So we can take your hand through the gap. We can come down, shoulder towards the floor, and then open up. So we're getting a nice bit of upper body rotation here, other direction, and then again the opposite way. Reaching down and through, and then opening up. Okay, we'll do one more either side. Again, sliding handle on the floor and reaching up. So when you do that, think about turning through your rib cage, opening up, and then bringing your hands back down. Okay, sitting back, give the fingers, the wrists a little shake out, give them a little circle if you wish. And then we're going to come back up to standing. So come back up any way you like, nice and safe. You could tuck your toes under, press back onto your heels, and then walk yourself up, standing. Or just take yourself up, use a bit of furniture if you need to. We've got our feet back underneath our hips. Think about your alignment nice and tall. Bring your shoulders up towards your ears. Let them slide down, and then just make sure that you feel nice and relaxed. You can give yourself a little wiggle and you're done for today.